Under consent, Vicky.
All items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested.
Items to be pulled. Marty.
I don't have that. I have the agenda in front of me
Oh,
electronically. Just wanted to.
I need to back that.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Pull item D. Thank you.
Minutes.
We're doing the minutes
A.
now?
Yeah.
I thought you were saying.
A.
Oh, I'm sorry. And a correction or a correction to the minutes, if I may.
So items A and D have been pulled. Is there any action on the remainder of the consent?
Move to approve.
There's been a motion and a second to approve B, C, and E. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, no. We'll go ahead and move on to item A under consent. Minutes of the special meeting and regular city council meetings of March 13th and special city council meetings of March 21st and 22nd, 2018. Marty?
Right. So I just wanted to add an important part to the minutes there for the project for the street light pole replacement. It's where we're replacing eventually 680 poles, and the current project was to fix 5% of those, 36 of those, at $320,000. The important part that wasn't included in the minutes was the remaining 95% of those poles, the 44 poles, will cost approximately $5.5 million. We only have $1.2 million budgeted. So we have a shortfall there as we're going forward, knowing we have to replace these poles. So I wanted that reflected in the minutes because, as I said during the meeting, we have a lot of unfunded work that is really important that we need to do, and we have to work on the revenue side to pay for it.
Okay, you're welcome. With that, any action? Council? Action on the item? Need a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item D, resolution approving amendment number 4 to employment agreement between the City of San Bruno and Mark Zaffarano, City Attorney. Marty.
Right. So I pulled this item because this past Wednesday, the council in their priority setting meeting were advised that there is $1 million shortfall in our budget. I'm not sure exactly what components are, whether it's on the revenue side or the expenditure side. And with that information, I felt it was important to bring up this topic with this contract amendment for our city attorney and to see and hear from my colleagues, is this the appropriate time to be putting raises together, a raise when we're facing an immediate shortfall? And as we're going forward, what are we going to do about it? Where are we going to have to cut in order to continue having the services that we want? Because we currently are going to have an issue in paying for them. So I apologize to the council for, in closed session, that I had confidence in moving forward with it. And however, with this newly disclosed information, I'm having my second thoughts about it and wanted to hear a little bit more about where is the shortfall, so we can have a better understanding of that projection of how are we going to pay for this.
Okay, I think if there's anybody from the public that wishes to speak, if you could go to the podium. I just wanted to go ahead and talk about the process. The process is that there's a contract with the city attorney, which the council appoints, can remove, renew, or not. When there's a performance review, which is outlined within the agreement, that is the city attorney who comes to the city council and schedules it. The city attorney is in a closed session room with the city council. What I've read, the city manager is not engaged, is not involved, is not a part of any of that. It is very separated. So I just want that for the record because it seems it was alluded that it was not. From that, a report and questions are asked by council to the city attorney, and then the council makes a decision and then directs the city attorney on action to be placed on the consent. It is placed on the consent when the city attorney asks and gets our approval to where to have it placed on the agenda. So I just want the process to be clear, and that's why it's here under that. So, Ryan, please.
Ryan Mersney, Keynes Avenue. The problem I'm having with it, I'm sure Mr. Zefferon is a very good lawyer, and I'm sure 3% isn't too much. The problem is that during the recent election, 5 months ago, 3 of the council members promised us fiscal responsibility and transparency. I'm afraid giving anyone a pay raise, especially the person making the second most in the city, does not fit, in my opinion, fiscal responsibility when we face $1 million shortfall or budget gap, however you want to term it. We were talking about adding CSO officers and other things that we thought we were going to be able to do. I don't know if you're going to all go into reserves to make up the $1 million, or you're going to cut services, or you're going to raise rates. I don't know. I just think the optics of it looks very bad, and I really suggest that we delay this until we're more financially stable. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert?
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. 2 questions. What is roughly the dollar amount of his raise? Obviously, it's not $1 million, so it is a much lower dollar amount that we're talking about. And secondly, he is one of the many upper-level city employees that is due to get raises or considered for raises. So you've started the process. I believe the city manager has already got a raise this year. So is it fair to all of a sudden say in the middle of looking at all the eligible employees we're going to stop now and we're not going to give anybody else raises? Thank you.
Marco?
Good evening, Marco Durazo, 2nd Avenue. Just with regards to the projected budget deficit, and I know city manager can correct the record to make it more accurate. I know it was talking about we're only in the 3rd or 4th month of the year and that it's projected and that more information and more time was needed. But it did sound, what I did walk away with thinking is that we have somewhat of a deficit and we have a bit of an issue. And given in the context that we were in, talking about what the priorities are and what are we going to address and what are we going to fix, is a little bit of a downer to kind of walk out of there feeling that we were facing a potential deficit given that we had so much need and so many things that needed to be addressed in the city. I guess it also worried me as well is that I read recently when we were talking about recruitment for a new city manager, and I think Mayor Rico, you were quoted in an article, I might be paraphrasing, but we're talking about how great the job was and why it's really attractive place for a city manager to work, and we had so many great things going on. All the above, I agree. But one of the attractive elements of coming to San Bruno as a new city manager was really our financial stability and our financial situation. So I think I read that online, and I hope I'm not misquoting you, Mayor, but I think I read something along that lines. And then to come to the meeting a couple weeks later to find out we're facing a budget deficit was just a little difficult to ascertain. And I think I just want to echo Ryan's comments about the optics. No disrespect to the city attorney. I think he does fine work. I think it's a complicated, difficult job, but I'm just worried about the information being new and I think really coming in the heels of just weeks after we being in a financial stable position, and then talking about raises, I think the optics are pretty bad, and I just feel like we should get just general information to figure out where do we really stand with regards to our budget and how that's going to impact the priorities that we're talking about and the new council is talking about, and how's that going to impact the raises that we essentially promised our city workers. Thank you.
Jeffrey, were you going to speak on this item, or? No. If you'd like to speak on this item, please do so now.
I'm Jeffrey Tong from Fleetwood Drive. From the year 2015, the people of San Bruno chose to elect Marty Bendina as one of the newest council members on the board. In this last election, it was also a vote for change too. So it was rather disturbing that the management style is going to stay the same. Individual aside, I think a lot of the people in San Bruno are dissatisfied with the management style, meaning the city attorney may have had his right to tell the city manager what the minimum time period to disclose public meetings, but a lot of people, including myself, found it very difficult to just jump through hoops to attend city council meetings or these subcommittee hearings in odd locations. This is just one example where I feel that public disclosure for the public is very...
Jeffrey, excuse me. This is in regards to the salary increase.
I understand.
Okay, so if we can keep it to that topic and not... You're going back to 2015 and you're going... Okay, please.
With regards to salary increases, I believe that City Council needs to make substantive changes and not reward past practices or the status quo. And for that reason, I don't think a salary increase is justified. Thank you much.
Thank you. So a couple things I will answer is in regards to the amount. The city attorney's salary, which would be a 3% raise for a one-year contract. All city employees have a 3-year contract with the exception of the city manager and city attorney, which are at a 1-year contract. The city attorney's salary would be adjusted from $228,797 to $235,661. What that means in difference, somebody did the math for me just now, $6,660. That's the difference between the proposed 3%, just so we all know. Another thing I did want to include also is that there was some dialogue about having that the city should be taking these monies and putting them to the school district. The city should be doing this, doing that. So again, I tried to educate, as I did at the Easter egg hunt. We're two separate bodies, and so that is sometimes gets clouded, but I think it needs to be made abundantly clear. One does not operate the other as far as how they proceed or how we proceed. The other thing is that this item is up. We did have a performance review. Direction was given to the attorney. It is on the agenda. And in my personal view, to be more specific to Marty, you asked the colleagues what they thought and this and that. And I do know we have an item on the agenda about the budget. On conduct of business D, which is a schedule of study session meetings to review the proposed budget year 18-19 annual operating capital improvement, which I think some of those questions should be asked about. Where's that shortfall? What's our plan? What's our objective? How are we going to get that handled? I don't know that that really comes under the a performance review for the city attorney. That's my opinion, but I'm prepared to take action and vote on this topic tonight. So, colleagues?
I'll start the conversation. I appreciate the feedback that we hear from whether it's a next door comment or whether it's somebody that comes here to a meeting to voice their concerns. We sat in a closed session meeting 2 weeks ago. We reviewed, number one, his performance. Even though I've only been here a short time, I can say that I find our attorney to be responsible, to be thorough, to be very knowledgeable. I believe that his performance is exceptional. I also know that the city attorney rates are in the private sector, are very expensive. And if you look at city attorneys throughout California, not just San Mateo County, we are not the highest paid. And there are much greater attorneys that are paid a much higher rate. Does the city have budget issues? Yes, we do. Is this the time and the place to not approve an item for $6,000? I don't think it is, because it also sets precedent. We have other city leaders in other positions that says all of a sudden we're going to, we get a budget issue and we're going to start with you and we're going to not raise you. If that's an issue and we want to stop with all raises, and I think we need, through the budget study session, to have a discussion about halting all increases. But we work hard all year long. You and I, we all have our jobs. At the end of the year, we come to and we expect to be rewarded for the job well done. Again, I think for me, it's a 3% raise. We're not talking about a lot of money, and I think it's deserving, and I support it.
Any other comments or action from council?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion made and seconded to approve consent item D. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Okay, passes.